There it is. Keeping you in suspenseful wait there. No, man, what a great way to start our conversation off this morning in singing God praise. We're journeying through the Gospel of John. We are on what we're calling this year a slow walk with Jesus. We're journeying through the entire Gospel of John throughout this year. And what we're going to see in the next coming weeks, we're going to see a little bit today too, is the idea of Jesus being new. You saw it in our video a little bit before. Jesus being new, meaning Jesus comes into the scene and he's very refreshing, kind of his take on some things. He's revolutionary. He's beyond expectations. He's one who kind of breaks the mold a little bit. And we're going to see that as we kind of start the ministry of Jesus, that expectations are kind of blown away. And sometimes Jesus just doesn't say the things people think he's going to say. He comes with a very new posture. And we're going to see that a little bit this morning. But this morning, to start our conversation, what I want to do is I want to ask you this question. Okay, and I want you to just kind of entertain a response just in your own mind. The question is this: what do you do when you don't know what to do? What do you do when you don't know what to do? When you're in kind of a fog, right? Where things just aren't clear and you can't see which way to step and you've kind of lost your bearings a little bit. You've lost your sense of direction. You know you need to step, but you just don't know where you're supposed to step. Maybe circumstances are just overwhelming and you've lost really the confidence that you have in making a good choice. And you find yourself in a position of just kind of throwing up your hands and saying, I don't know what to do, right? What do you do when you don't know what to do? I'm sure all of us can find and pinpoint a time in our lives where we've just thrown up our hands in surrender and say, this is too much for me. I can't make this decision. I don't know where to go. If you could just open up my head here for a moment and look at the compass in there, it is spinning like this. I don't know where magnetic north is. What do you do when you don't know what to do? I think John, the gospel writer, is going to give us an answer to that question. I think he's going to give us an answer to that question in the first part of chapter 2. And the answer to that question is the big idea for this morning. So I want you to take the pen out of the seat back in front of you. I want you to find that spot in your bulletin or in your life group booklet, or maybe you're putting the big ideas in your Gospel of John journal that you brought with you. If you haven't got one of these yet, they are available. You can grab them. I think some of them are on the back bookshelves there, or you can go to the information center and we'll gladly give you one of these journals. As we journey through the Gospel of John, I want you to take this. Use it for family devotion time. Use it just for personal time. We're just journeying through the text. And so it's really great to have this tool with you. But let's jump in to John chapter 2. And the big idea is this. What do you do when you don't know what to do? We open up and we look up. We open up and we look up. We open up, meaning we live vulnerably. We live honestly. We live authentically. We just are real. We don't feel the sense of fear to be a little insecure and uncertain and a little bit out of balance. We don't try to save face. We just open up. Open up and say, I don't know what to do. We just open up, but then we look up. We look up and we surrender to the only one who has the wisest of all plans, and that's God. We look up and we pray. We look up and we seek his direction. We look up and ask for his wisdom. We open up and we just say, hey, I don't know what to do. I'm uncertain. My hands are open. But then we look up. We don't just stand there looking down with our hands open, but we have our hands open and we look up to God. Let me show you this in John chapter 2. I'm going to start with verse 1. A problem is going to happen, and a character in our story is going to find themselves in a position of not knowing what to do. That character happens to be the mother of Jesus, Mary. Let's get to first the setting of the problem. Look at verse 1 of John chapter 2. It says this. Now on the third day, there was a wedding in Canaan in Galilee, at Canaan in Galilee. And the mother of Jesus was there. And Jesus was invited to the wedding with his disciples. So they're at a party. Jesus is at a party. Mary is at a party. The disciples, at least the group that he has so far, they're at a party. They're at a wedding party. Wedding parties back in the ancient Near East were awesome, right? They were, many of them, over a week long. I mean, these were big deals. And you thought there was financial strain on weddings now. You see that all the time about how the money is just increasing the level of expectations from brides, even from grooms, from the parents, are elevating the cost of weddings to just this astronomical, kind of a ceiling there of what people are giving to get married. It's incredible. But ancient Near East, it wasn't necessarily about destination weddings or those different things, but they would extend the festivals for a long period of time. And it was the groom's responsibility to pay for everything. Yes, everything. That means every day, if it's a week-long festival, every day it's his job to make sure that there's food, and it's his job to make sure that there's wine. That is a lot of money. That's a lot of financial constraints that are on him. Imagine taking your wedding day and multiplying that cost by 7. No matter if you had a small wedding and if you had a big wedding, you would see there goes the idea of ever owning a home, right? Or a car, or ever eating food, right? For your first year of marriage. This is a big financial undertaking. When this big financial undertaking, the reason why they spend so much money on it is because it was so important to them. And in this very important festival, a problem happens. Okay, let's look at our next verse. Verse 3. When the wine ran out. Uh-oh. Right? Maybe for you it's different. Maybe you're at the wedding and all those little cute little small sausage sandwiches with the little crescent rolls, right? The little pigs in the blanket. When those are gone, problem, right? There's a huge problem here. The wine's run out. Now to us, again, I think for us, it would be like, oh, no big deal. The night will go on. We only have 1 more hour or something like that. No, we don't know where they are in the middle of this festival. If they're at the end or they're in the middle, maybe they're at the beginning. We don't know. But either way, the groom has not done his job well. Maybe there's too many people. I don't know. Maybe he underestimated. Maybe he had a bad caterer. I don't know. Whatever happened, he ran out of wine. So he is about to undergo one of the most socially embarrassing things that can happen to somebody in the ancient Near East. I mean, this is supposed to be a hallmark of his life, a crescendo moment in his life. This is supposed to be one of those times where celebration, excitement, all the families together and all the villages together. Like, he's not going to get away from this. If he doesn't do this right, if he doesn't fix this problem, everybody in the village is going to know. He's always going to be the guy who let the wine run out. Now, even more than social embarrassment, from what we can tell, in the ancient Near East, people could actually get in legal trouble because of this. So not only is this guy going to be now the embarrassment of the town, he might suffer some legal consequences because he didn't bring enough wine to the party. He's in huge trouble. And Mary has some sort of attachment that's not really told to us, but some sort of attachment to this family. And she knows the scale of the problem. She knows what's going to happen to this boy or this man in his family. She knows it. She feels it. Maybe there's a relation there. I don't know. Maybe it's just a kinship. I don't know what it is. But she feels the weight and the ownership of the problem, and she knows how severe the problem is. Social embarrassment, potential legal consequences. Things are going bad. And she gets to the point where she says, I don't know what to do. Right? There's no Bevmo around the corner. I don't know what to do. You're worried if you should laugh at that, like to know what a Bevmo is. Okay, that's where they sell wine, just in case you didn't know that, right? But she's nervous. So what is she going to do? She's going to open up. She opens up to her eldest son, Jesus. Right, look at what she says to him. We're in verse 3, about halfway through. When the wine ran out, the mother of Jesus said to him, so she says to Jesus, they have no wine. And Jesus said to her, woman, what does this have to do with me? My hour has not yet come. Now, this is a really confusing conversation that's happening here. Confusing for a couple of reasons. One is what Mary says to Jesus, and the other is what Jesus says to Mary. What is she looking for? She comes up and says, the wine has run out. What are we going to do? And then Jesus says, woman, what does this have to do with us? My time has not yet come. Now, on the surface, we can read this as like a catering conundrum, right? That there's a problem and they're having a catering conversation and they're asking caterer questions. Is Jesus looking to Mary looking to Jesus and saying, Jesus, it was your job. When we all handed out jobs of what should be done, you were on wine. This is your fault. You got to do something. It's your job to keep the party going. Or maybe she's saying, Jesus, it wasn't your obligation, but clearly you have some sort of responsibility here. Jesus, you have to do something. And then Jesus' response is, my hour has not yet come, or some translations say, my time has not yet come. Is Jesus giving a catering response? Like, is Jesus saying, no, Peter, he was in charge of the wine. I was dessert. And my time has not yet come, right? They're supposed to cut the cake, and then I come in. I don't think this is a catering question, a catering conundrum, a catering conversation. I don't think that's what's happening here. And the reason why is because I think of what Mary already knows of Jesus. And we didn't get this a lot when we walked through the Gospel of John. We walked through the other Gospels. We know what Mary knows so far. Think about it for a moment. Can you imagine that Mary is looking at Jesus only as a caterer? I find that really hard to believe. Why? First of all, before Jesus was ever born, an angel came to Mary, came to her and said, you're going to have a son. Even though you're a virgin, you're going to conceive, still remaining a virgin. That's pretty outstanding. And then this child, conceived by the Holy Spirit, this child is going to be great. He's going to be called the Son of the Most High, and he's going to have a kingdom that lasts forever. She already knows there's something very special about Jesus. She knows that Jesus, when he was a young boy, right before he was a teenager, he went to the temple. As they were celebrating one of the festivals in Jerusalem, he went to the temple and then he stayed there and they left and they had to come back and they found Jesus, and Jesus tells them, hey, this right here, this is my Father's house. This is my home. Not with you guys necessarily, but I have a greater sense of home, and that's in this temple because this temple is my Father's house. She knew Jesus was special. Now, this is Jesus' first miracle. So I think a safe way to read this is maybe she wasn't expecting a miracle, but she was expecting more than just a caterer solution. She knew Jesus was special. And so she's telling Jesus, Jesus, will you do something? Right? She's just opening up. We got a problem. This is going to hurt this family. It'll hurt us too. Jesus, we have a problem. What do you do when you don't know what to do? You just open up. But look what Jesus says to her. Right? Even as I read it, some of you chuckled. Look at Jesus' response. As Mary opens up, Jesus says, woman, what does this have to do with me? Now, what's happening here? You probably already can feel the sense of this a little bit. This is a rebuke. It is. He's correcting his mother. Now, you don't want to take that a step further and saying he's being rude. He's not being rude. He's rebuking, he's correcting, but he's not being rude. Even though on the English ear, it sounds like when he says woman, that it sounds very abrupt and very abrasive and very hard, but that's actually not what's happening. This is the same thing that Jesus would say, the same term that Jesus would say in the same way. When Jesus was being crucified and he was making arrangements for Mary, he calls her the same exact thing. This is an affectionate rebuke, but he corrects her. And he corrects her with this statement. And it's not about the timing of when the wine comes out or when the dessert comes out, the catering calendar. It's not that. Look what Jesus says. Woman, what does this have to do with me? My hour has not yet come. What is Jesus saying there? This is one of the favorite phrases of John, the gospel writer. He's going to record Jesus saying this 9 times in just this gospel. 3 times, Jesus will say, my hour has not yet come. 6 times, Jesus will say, my hour is coming. What hour is Jesus thinking of? He's thinking of his death and resurrection. He's thinking of the reason he's here. He's thinking of, my Father has placed me here for a purpose, to accomplish a greater plan, a plan to forgive the sins of the world, a plan to right the moral universe, if you will, that is out of balance, that there is a holy and just God, and there are sinners in rebellion to him, and justice needs to fall. But I'm going to act as a substitute and step in and not let judgment fall on the sinners deserving of it, but it will fall on me, and I will take justice on. That's what he's talking about here when he says, my hour has not yet come. What is he telling his mother? What is he telling Mary? He's telling her, look, I know your plan is to not have this go bad, but you have to know I have a different timetable. I have a different plan, and nothing can compromise my plan. I think what Jesus is sensing in Mary here is a sense of control. And Jesus' statement is not actually telling her no. What Jesus' statement is about is, Mary, Mom, who's in control? Are you in control? Or is my Father in control? And look at how Mary responds. I think this is when Mary moves from mother to believer. Because look what she says. She doesn't even address her son, at least in a direct way, maybe an indirect way, but she looks at the servants. Look at verse 5. His mother said to the servants, do whatever he tells you. What'd she say? It's his control now. Right? I've opened up. Here's the problem. I'm worried. I'm anxious about it. And at this point, what is she doing? Now she's looking up. Hey, do whatever he tells you to do. He's special. He's in control. He has a timetable. I remember when the angel came. I remember that my belly grew, even though I'd never been with a man. I remember that time in the temple where he declared to me who his Father really was. I know he's special, so listen to him. And then the rest of the story, Mary fades out. She's not there anymore. Because for John, the gospel writer, the emphasis is what? What is Jesus going to do? Let's read through what that is. And I want to highlight, too, how the servants now have the same kind of faith as Mary. Let's just read through the entire rest of the miracle. Now, there were 6 stone jars. I'm in verse 6. Therefore, the Jewish rites of purification, each holding 20 or 30 gallons. And Jesus said to the servants, fill the jars with water. And they filled them up to the brim. And he said to them, now draw some out and take it to the master of the feast. What a dangerous proposition to do. Right? We could have social embarrassment, legal consequences, and Jesus' idea is to serve water? This is a bad idea. Verse 8, and he said to them, now draw out and take it to the master of the feast. So they took it, and when the master of the feast tasted the water now become wine, and did not know where it came from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Now stop right there. I think this is really interesting. Look at this point that John inserts into the story. Look at that last statement we just read. Though the servants who had drawn the, what's that word there? Water. It's not wine. The servants who had drawn the water knew. I think what John is suggesting here is that the miracle didn't take place in the jars. It was water in the jars. The servants scooped it up. It's still water. What they drew was still water. And somewhere between drawing it and serving it, it turned into wine. Think if you're the servant. In the ancient Near East world, if you were the last one to perform a gesture of social embarrassment, you know heads are going to roll. You don't want to be that guy. I know you're the middleman, right? And you're just the intern at the wedding or something like that. But you don't want to bring the boss the wrong coffee. You don't want to bring the bridegroom or the master of the feast. You don't want to bring him the wrong stuff. And these servants have no sense of hesitation in them. Okay, let's do it. They just do it. I think what they're doing is they're modeling the faith of Mary. They're saying, hey man, there's a problem, but we're looking up. We'll let Jesus take care of it. And Jesus does exactly that. The master of the feast called the bridegroom You can sense the tension right now. And he said to him, everyone serves the good wine first. And when people have drunk freely, then the poor wine. But you have kept the good wine. It's not just water. It's not just old wine. It's good wine. But you have kept the good wine until now. This was the first of his signs Jesus did at Cana in Galilee and manifested his glory, and his disciples believed him. It's interesting, their belief comes after Mary's, it seems, and the servants' belief. Now it says they believe. In this story, what do we learn? When we don't know what to do, what do? We open up, and we look up. Now I want to apply this very specifically to myself. Right, to myself and to my last year. What do you do when you don't know what to do? You open up and you look up. Many of you know, because we've lived very openly with you, that 2019 was not a great year for the Crandall family. It was a hard year. And maybe many of you could say the same exact thing for yourself. But I know for us as a family, we experienced four kind of big hardship moments. We lost two family members passed, two family members died, and we almost lost two more. At one point, in the beginning of 2019, my wife was at the bedside of her father in ICU for over 2 months, living up in Northern California, with me and the 3 kids living down here. And you as a church were extremely supportive. Many of you cooked us meals, picked up kids from school, babysat for me for free so I could continue working. You were praying for John. You were praying for my father-in-law. You were praying for him, which I can't tell you how appreciative I am that you were so supportive during that season for us. And God pulled John through that, and we rejoiced as a church in that. But then July came, and Lindsay was able, by God's grace, to be up by the bedside of her grandmother, even the moment she passed away. The tail end of the year wasn't easy either. Lost a cousin who was really more like a brother in Lindsay's early years, and tragic loss there. And man, right after that, I think a week or two after that, her grandfather starts a bleed internally that almost takes his life. And with every hardship, our hearts ached. And we were so just homesick. I remember one moment, if I could crystallize my feeling in just one moment, I remember when John got out, which was so exciting. And right before Lindsay's grandmother got sick, we took John up to his favorite camping spot. And as we were closing out the night, everybody's kind of finding their sleeping bags and doing everything. And John is just kind of reclining, and he has his oxygen tank, right next to him. And my wife just comes up next to him and lays her head on his chest. And just seeing that moment, as a husband and as a person who doesn't have that moment anymore, I won't get that moment. And I thought to myself, man, what I would give to have a moment like that with my father, to kind of have him back. And my wife has him back. And that's kind of how we felt through 2019, that we were just in this fog. And we got to the point, and I'm just going to be really open here, is we got to the point where it just felt like we didn't know what to do. And we were kind of throwing up our hands. But what do you do when you don't know what to do? You open up. And we opened up to many of you. And you look up and you ask God, I don't know what to do. But I know in here it's just all messed up. And so you got to heal our hearts. We knew the sacrifice we made 6 years ago when God called us to come serve here at Knott Avenue Christian Church. We knew that. But I'll tell you, 2019, we felt the weight of that. In the midst of this year, I found myself in an airport, about to board a plane. And as I'm about to get in my little boarding space, trying to competitively get in line so my overhead luggage will actually fit, right? I get a phone call. And the phone call in the middle of a busy airport, and I can't really understand what's even going on the line, but the phone call is from my former lead pastor, who I served up in Northern California as his youth pastor, right near Lindsay's family. Wonderful, godly man, always somebody I just put kind of in a hero category. And as he's calling me and talking to me, I think what he's going to ask me is that he's going on vacation and he needs somebody to fill in and preach for him, which I gladly do for him and have enjoyed doing that for him. But what he tells me, he says, Paul, I'm retiring at the end of 2019 after 48 years of serving this church. And they're asking me who I think can lead this church after me. And my list is very short. It only has one name on it, and it's your name. Would you consider God calling you back up here? And I had no idea what to do. I mean, I'm thinking about boarding group A, boarding group C. That's what I'm thinking about. And to get a conversation from him, we love each other, we have a good relationship, but I never thought that would come. And so all I could do, I think maybe out of respect, was just say, I'll pray about it. I'm complimented by it. Wow, let me pray about it. And I went to Lindsay and I said, Hun, you're not going to believe this, and I don't know what to do with this. And we decided we were going to pray together and we're going to pray apart and come back together. And what we came to the conclusion was that we don't know what to do with this. What do you do when you don't know what to do? You just open up and you look up. And we shared our fears, we shared our anxiety, we shared all of it with each other and said, I don't know what God is doing, and I don't know why this happened. I don't know why this sought us out, but I know the season that we've been in. So let's at least be open and not shut the door on God if he's doing something. Lindsay and I then decided we needed to get the wisest and godliest men that we know in the room speaking to us. That we can't handle this on our own, and we can't see. We're in a fog. Our compass is spinning. Like, we don't know what to do. So about 4 or 5 months ago, before anything in the process ever started, speaking to them or anything, we came to our elders here at Knott Avenue Christian Church, and we said, men, we don't know what to do. And we just opened up our hearts. And we cried. I mean, we ugly cried. And by we ugly cried, I mean, I ugly cried. And we laughed a little bit and we prayed a lot. And our elders took on courageously a very awkward task. And that's to begin a discovery and discernment process to see if God was calling us. And for the last 4 or 5 months, that's what we've been doing. Asking God to validate, asking God to make it clear, waiting for God to make it clear to everyone, to all the parties involved. It had to be clear. Well, we're at the close of that process. And it is with an extremely heavy heart that I tell you that Lindsay, myself, and all of the elders are in agreement that God is calling us to serve him back up north near our family. Now, I want you to hear that it took so long and so much prayer and so much wisdom to see this as a gift from God, to see this as a provision of his grace, to be okay with this as a gift to heal our hurting heart. And it has taken me months to receive that gift. And the reason it's taking me months is because it means I have to let go of another gift, a gift that I hold very dear, and that's leading you as your pastor. I feel like you're my family. And it hurts me to think of not leading you. It hurts me to think of not being here, to see the future unfold and God's plan to flourish here. God's call isn't always something that's comfortable, something that's easy, something that's not filled with heartache or sacrifice. And that's exactly how this call feels for us. Now, I'm going to be with you through the month of February. My last Sunday here will be in March 1st. And our elders want to have a moment that they could share their heart as well. So I'm going to call our elders up, and as they're coming, I just want to say this to you, church, Knott Avenue Christian Church. I just want to thank you. Thank you for welcoming me. Thank you for, let's be honest, thank you for being patient with kind of a goofball that I am. And thank you for embracing me. Thank you for honoring me. Thank you for loving on my family. It has been such a great joy to serve you. And I want to walk this transition process with you through the month. I just want you to know that I love you and I care deeply about you.
Good morning, church family. It's with heavy hearts and feeling of sadness and joy that we come before you this morning. Sadness because just like you, we love and adore and appreciate Pastor Paul, Lindsay, and the entire Crandall family. Not only has Pastor Paul done a fantastic job in teaching us and to help us better understand Scripture, but even in this move, he is teaching us in the leading of obedience. And that's where the feeling of joy sets in. As we turn the page here at Knott Avenue, we want to continue to echo what Pastor Paul has labored, is that Jesus Christ is the hero of our story. As the hero of our story, we look to him, trusting, just as he called Pastor Paul up north, he's calling someone here right now to serve him at Knott Avenue Christian Church. So, church family, let us take heart, fix our gaze on Jesus, knowing that Christ loves his church and he gave himself up for the church. We love Pastor Paul and Lindsay, and they faithfully served Jesus Christ here at Knott Avenue. We have prayerfully come up with a transition roadmap for Knott Avenue, and we plan on sharing that with you all next week. Thank you.
What I'd like to do, we're going to close out our service a little bit early. I want to do just two things. One is I want to pray for these men, and I want to pray for you. I want to open up and look up, and I want to look up with you to him who has the greatest of all plans. I want to ask you, after I pray for you, if you do me this favor. You know, I've had the opportunity to share with you this news personally. And I really want the same opportunity to share that with those that come to our second service. I want you to open up with everybody that attends second service. I do. But what I'd ask you to do is please allow me to do that first. Allow me the opportunity and the privilege to speak to them first. So if you could not take the phone call or not make the phone calls, send the text messages or post anything on social media, at least until I've had the opportunity to speak to those in the second service. I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to pray for these men. I'm going to pray for you. The elders and I are going to be right up front here. And we want to offer you a time if you need prayer. As Kevin said, the plan will be shared next Sunday. But right now, we want to prayerfully process through this together. And so we have decided that what we felt was best to shepherd you in this moment is to look up with you. And so if you feel that you need some time and you need some prayer, we're going to be available right here to pray for you as we walk through this transition together. So church family, I'm going to pray right now, and then I'll dismiss you. Will you join me? Bow your heads and close your eyes. Father, and let's just pray to him. God, we love you, and God, I thank you. I thank you that we stand with you as our resurrected Savior. That all the anxiety and the worry that we feel crumbles before the feet of the resurrected one. God, it's hard in moments like these. Moments where we have to let go of the pen a little bit when it comes to writing the story that we want. And it's hard to let go of that. And we don't want to let go of that. And we don't want to let go of that because of good desires, because of love and relationship and cherished moments. But God, at this moment, I pray for these men. God, I thank you for these men. I thank you for their honesty, for their vulnerability. I thank you for their wisdom. I thank you for the ministry that they have provided to both Lindsay and I over these last 4 or 5 months. The counsel, the crying, the prayers, the tears. God, I don't know what I would do without them. And I thank you for the gift that you've given this church, that you lead this church through them. And God, I pray for everybody who's here right now, God, and whatever they're processing through, the only person to speak peace is you. And so, God, I pray that you would speak peace. Speak like you did before the disciples, where you calm the storm. May we know through the next several months that the one that is in our boat with us is the one who can calm any storm with a word. God, give your word of great peace. It's in Christ's name I pray. Amen. Amen. Church family, you are dismissed from the service. Again, we'll make ourselves available here in the front if you'd like some prayer.